Kia ora, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to be speaking with you on this New Year's week. On this week's podcast, I wanted to begin the new year using the quote from the famous theologian named Meister Eckhart. He says this: "Be willing to be a beginner every day." At first, this seems like a really obvious concept. Well, of course, we're all going to be beginners at something at some point in our life. But the crux of this quote is that we have to foster the idea of being a beginner every single day of our life. That is the pathway to growth. Being a beginner means that you're going to step out into uncertainty. It means that you don't know everything. It means that you don't have everything figured out. And as a result, because you are a beginner, you don't have ultimate control over whatever it is that you are wanting to gain experience in. And as a result, because of that, you might do certain things. You might ask questions that other people might deem basic. You might make mistakes. You might have to admit to yourself and to other people that you don't have it all figured out. As a result of that, and the uncomfortable feeling that one can experience, people often do not want to be in that beginner stage. Why is it then that we avoid being a beginner? Well, think about it this way. How often are we sitting in familiar environments? How often is it that we're talking to the people that we know? How often is it that we want to only dwell on conversations that we are familiar with and not really want to experience something more than that? It can be a challenge to appear inexperienced. But when we refuse to be a beginner, our world gets smaller. Our conversations are not as full. We tell ourselves the same stories about who we are. We tell other people about those same stories as well. You may have met people like that who dwell on the past, back on their glory days, back in the days of their high school and college days. We want to grow beyond that. We want to gain experience, and in order to gain experience, we must first be a beginner. This is why this quote is so important. It encourages us to be open, to foster the idea of curiosity rather than certainty. When we are curious about something, we are going to go full on to learn about it. I don't know about you, but when I am learning something new, I dive head first and try and go down the rabbit hole to learn as much as I can. When you're a beginner, you listen more closely. You might ask questions and notice details that other people might never have thought of, especially someone who's experienced in the field. They might not think of that as important because they are surrounded by it every single day. And so you aren't trying to prove anything. In fact, you are just simply trying to understand. And as you understand, you gain the experience that you desire. In many ways, being a beginner is an act of humility. It's laying down our own ego, laying down what we think we know or pretend that we know, but we simply are remaining present and alert and being open to new ideas, new concepts, and letting go of ourselves to become better. So, be willing to be a beginner. How do we do this? Well, it might be as simple as this. When you're in a conversation with someone, just take the time to listen. Not listening to make a point in rebuttal, but rather just listening to what they say. And as you listen to what that person says, you might gain a new piece of knowledge. It might mean that you go back to a previous skill that you thought that you had mastered, and then you discover that maybe there's some more things that you can learn from it. These don't have to be brand new things in your own life that you're a beginner at. You can always go back and become better. Being willing to be a beginner means that you will actually change how you relate to other people. Because you have let go of this need to be certain about everything, you are actually allowing space to grow so that you can ask questions and so that you can become better. And this is when the real transformation and inner growth happens in our life. It's not having all of the answers. It means that We are staying open throughout the entire process so that we can become better. So today, I invite you to ask yourself, where in life am I called to begin again? Where can I be a beginner? You don't have to start big. Just start honestly with yourself. Be curious, be patient, and be willing to be a beginner every day. As you foster this mindset, you will learn new things that will help you grow, that will help others relate to you better. And I hope that this year you take on the challenge to be a beginner every day so that you can become better. With that said, have a great week.